Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do the ivy in Maya. Super simple, pretty fast, good looking effect. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to Windows, General Editors, Visor. And within this there is a whole host of different things you can use. A lot of this is very useful. Grasses for just, and straw, stuff like that. But what we're interested in for ivy is within plantmesh and this ivy.mel. So if you right click that, select brush to stroke, come into the center of your scene, draw a relatively straight line, it doesn't really matter too much. And what you're going to do with this, instantly you can, if you want, just draw ivy wherever you want it, and within your scene it'll generate it. It's pretty low cost, so you can kind of go nuts with it. And to make it even lower cost, I believe we can set ray tracing not to self-sample lighting and shadow information from this, so it only takes it from the scene. But for the sake of this, we will just look into how to get this into the scene. So with this drawn, within the ivy1 option, there's tons of options like mesh, and what this does is when you come down, you can up the res of the mesh. I keep it on 5. It's so small within a scene, it doesn't really matter, and you could probably push it down to like 4 maybe. You can play about with all this stuff. There's some options here for thorns on mesh, leaf thorns, how reflective this kind of stuff is. I believe the environment and stuff like this more for default renderer. But yeah, there's a lot of options within this, within here as well. You can tell it how long you want it to be or how short you want it to be from the other end. The pressure mappings, you can set how dense you want it to be in certain areas, stuff like this. The number of leaves, so if you really want a lot of leaves, you could set that up there. But I normally leave it pretty much at the defaults for this. You can add more pressures in if you know what you're doing with this to control these even further. Again, that's something you're gonna have to look into in your own time. Just close all this up. There is something here for mesh output and all this other stuff. We're not going to bother with that. I would pretty much just stick to the pressure mappings and the options within here. And this gives you something that renders in the standard viewport pretty nicely. But looks real nice when it is being affected by global illumination. So what we're going to want to do to get this on a building, there's 2 ways of doing this, and for my version of Maya, I know for a fact that the live surfaces don't work, which is a shame, because it is really, really easy to do it this way, but with any luck yours will work. Where are we here? So if I just set the res up a bit here, what I'm going to do is right click, make this live, and this adds a constraint up here showing that this is the live surface, so anything you click will be on the surface of this. What we're going to do is create curve tools, CB curve tool, keep this above 3 Bezier, 1, 2, 3, 3 Bezier, 5, 7 is what you're going to use. Anything lower than this doesn't work as well, it looks too squared off and is very hard to control in my opinion. So with this live, I'll show you the problem I have with this. Usually mine, well, what do you know, it's working. So with this now, you can just draw on the surface, you know, wrap some ivy around it, whatever. Just go nuts, really. And then once you've got the path of your ivy, you can right click, control vertex, fix it if you like, stuff like that. You're going to complete tool, and for the sake of this, I'm just going to pull out. Whoops, forgot to unmake that live. Just going to pull this out ever so slightly. just so it hovers over the cube a little bit. Then what we're going to do is click on our ivy, and this is a brush within Maya, is what it's classed as. So what we can do is hold space, generate, get settings from selected stroke, and that will put in our clipboard what this ivy looks like now. And then we come over to the curves we've made, hold space, generate, curve utilities, attach brush to curves, and that gives us a nice dense leaf. The problem with this again is it doesn't render in RenderMan, and I can show you that by just quickly loading RenderMan and then going for another IPR. Oh no, apparently it's still using Maya software. There we go. Maya is. If we IPR this, it should bring up it. Here we go. Oh, I believe I forgot to put a line of scene, but just believe me, it doesn't work. So what we do to remedy this is we make these textures available so that RenderMan can convert them to whatever type it uses, and within this hypershade window, you're gonna see. Oh, I skipped a step. Sorry. Within the ivy, you can now go to modify, convert paint effects to polygons. These are the defaults. These are what I stick to. You can lower the poly limit, but I think that might just get rid of random polys. I'm not too sure. I just stick it as default. And then we click convert. Instantly zaps it over to this. I will turn on shaded in viewport so you can see. It looks real nice in the viewport as well, almost identical to the software renderer within Maya. What we need to do though is change the textures on these spines. I'm not actually sure what you call them, the tubes and the leaves. And the way we do this is we bring up the hypershade, and now we've converted it to a polygon surface. It gives us the nodes for what was powering the texturing of it. And you can see here, it's very simple the way that this does it. All it does is take a ramp, edit the colors of this TIFF, and something here, I'd assume an alpha map that's within the TIFF is being put into transparency. In RenderMan, that is a little bit different. If we pull up this node, we have presence and base color are the two ones we're going to be worried about. So we come into base color, file, and then I actually have the file here in the default spot. For you, it will be the same too. It's just wherever the leaf shader points. So if you look at it yourself, it should be within this folder. What you need to do is copy it to the project you're working on in the assets folder or source images, whichever one you prefer. And then it will show up here. Next thing we're going to do is whack the alt alpha into presence. And that updated this to actually have transparency on it. But it's still not on here. You can select all the leaves, but if you've got tons of them in a scene, it's much easier just to come over here to the leaf texture, select objects with this material, then whilst they're selected, you've always got to make sure for some reason that these are selected, because if you click this, it deselects it. So select objects with material, right click, assign material to selection, and it should go black, and this is just the way that the presence works within RenderMan. It can't be displayed in the viewport. So what I'll do is just quickly whack in a HDRI so you can see this and render a little bit nicely. HDRI, this one, that'll do. And what it's gonna look like now with any luck, there we go. Just some dead simple ivy leaves. As the sample's higher, you'll be able to see the veins and stuff on it. It looks pretty nice. I set mine up so that the leaves kind of cover these stems, so they can remain untextured. But if you do leave these untextured, it will sample color from whatever it's against. So say it's a brick wall, which was the example I used. These will look slightly that color, and it gives a more dead look to it rather than having flourished leaves. You can also change the texture for the ivy tiff. You just need to make sure you update the alpha layer that's within it, and then export the presence again, reload both the textures, and then you can see the changes to it. But yeah, that's it for ivy. Before I go, I will mention that this effect works also from the visor. We have, I believe it's in metals. Metal, we have barbed wire, we have razor wire, metal with fences, foil, like Christ, whatever you can think of, it's within here somewhere. And as long as you want it to follow a curve, it's extremely simple just to find where the textures are for it and convert it to RenderMan. But yeah, same thing for barbed wire, you just start whacking it in your scene, up a sample density, play about with the pressure mappings for it, like, oh, it's not updating for me. That does work. I'm not sure why it's not. But yeah, just wanted to let you know that this is, I'll show you how I do this kind of stuff. This is very, very good for trees as well. There's some more dead looking trees that you can put in. Obviously, a tree would never be this tall. Whoa, shit, that wasn't a tall tree. Okay, so this made like a row of trees. I guess that's useful. I'm pretty sure you can play about with this. Maybe I put in a couple too many trees than I should have. Yeah, Maya's not liking that. But each tree um, can be controlled individually, so let's just try and draw one. Alright, we've got a whole host of them, that's fine. But I'm almost certain that you can change the pressure mappings for the amount of leaves. I know within one of these options there is, let's whack this down. Within this, there are a lot more options for what the tree looks like. The growth of the tree, what it's gonna put on it. You can add flowers. Oh, bloody hell. It just basically whacks planes wherever a flower should spawn, but you can also take things off like leaves and have just dead looking trees. Good for in the background, or you can res them up and stick them in the foreground. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show for this nice old ivy technique. Cheers.